What's up, everybody? Jimmy Faluca reporting with Frank on the phone and with Larry at my side. Fellas, how are we this evening?
I'm okay.
Not too shabby.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to inform everybody, as well as my co-host, that I am hopefully looking to try to change our show up a little bit and possibly move to Google Hangouts so that way we can see everybody in the show. And they'll be immediately posted onto YouTube. Once I figure out how that works, we'll be able to have the three of us along with guys like Nick Perkins, hopefully Joe Calabrese, and a couple guys. We'll be able to get a couple guys on the show all at once. Maybe even Mike Marone will make a surprise return. What do you think about that, Frank?
I think it's a great idea.
I think that's definitely best for business, don't you? Ladies and gentlemen, this past weekend was a momentous weekend. Not just because of the wrestling that we got to see on the shows via NXT and SummerSlam, all at the Barclays Center, but also what was going on at Wizard World Comic Con. I had the honor and privilege to shake hands and actually speak with a man that we all have known for all the years we've been watching this wonderful business and sometimes frustrating business as The Undertaker. And for anyone that doubts that I'm being honest, here's your proof. This is the picture that I took of him when I was 3 years old with the Polaroid cameras. Yes, we had Polaroid back then, where you would actually have to take the picture, bring it to the pharmacy, and have them develop the film. It's not all digital like with a microchip like it is now. Back then, but this is the picture of myself and The Undertaker. He was one of the nicest wrestlers I've met, and I've met a few that I thought were really cool in person. Owen Hart, Daniel Bryan are two out of the many that I've met, but those two in particular I thought were really nice. And Undertaker is now added to that list because the guy didn't mind that I talked to him for 5 minutes, even though he had 500 people. When he saw the picture that I took of him when I was a child and he saw that I still had it, I'm not going to get into details of what happened, because that's best
What?
left.
What do you mean you're not going to get into detail? What did I say?
All right, you're pressing me.
That's the whole story.
Let me step out of character. When I got up to meet him,
He's breaking kayfabe.
Did he hug you and he started crying on his shoulder? What happened?
this is how it started. I got online for first it was the photo op. I'd never seen that many people in one place before. It was
How many
insane.
people would you say? 1,000? Less than 1,000? Over 1,000?
I would say that there was at least 500 people in line just to meet him.
Okay.
Which, that's a lot of people in one place to see one guy. It felt like the lines were never going to move because there were so many people, but when my line started to move, I was like, wait a minute, I'm not ready yet. And the guys behind me that I ended up becoming friends with, Josh, Kurt, hope you guys are watching, they were like, no, go, it's your time, it's your time. I walk into the room and I see him, and I froze like a deer in the headlights. And then the last guy before me went, and then it was my turn. And he and I locked eyes, and I did not know what to say. So I just, as we would say in the industry, it was a shoot. I went up to him and I said...
You got starstruck? Is that what happened?
Yeah. I have no shame in saying I was starstruck. You would have thought Stardust was in the room. Yes, Larry, I went there. I put my hand out to him, I shook his hand, and I said...
Was it cold?
It was like I had chills all over, and it was like I could smell the formaldehyde a mile away. I told him, I shook your hand when I was 3. You're my childhood hero. And I pulled up my sleeve and showed him the tattoo. He looked at that and he was like, damn, that's cool shit. We took the picture. Then I had to go downstairs for the autograph part, which it took even longer for that line to go through.
So that's all you guys said?
No. Now we're getting to the autograph part, Frank. The pictures, they were a lot faster. They only gave us 45 seconds. When we got to the autograph part, it took a while because there was so many people, like I said. And remember, they were actually...
Everybody had a moment with him?
They were actually allowing people to get their autographs personalized. And I was very lucky to be one of those people, to have him actually sign an autograph to me, which I now have sitting on the Wall of Fame now. It'll get a better frame eventually, because it deserves it. When I got closer, I saw Tim White. Tim White, for those of you that don't know, is a former WWE referee. And now...
What was he doing there?
Now he goes to all the autograph signings and sits with the wrestlers. He recognized me because I've been to a couple signings, obviously. And he recognized me. He said, "Hey, kid, how's it going?" I said, "Oh, I'm just here for another signing, Mr. White."
Well, what's the shot? What's his function?
I'm sorry?
What's the function at these things? What does he do?
Well, he basically directs, okay, this person's next, that person's next.
Oh, so he directs the crowd, okay.
So then I said, "You're a very lucky man." And he said, "Oh, yes, I am. This is great for me to do now because this is my life." I said, "No, you're not just for that. You're lucky because you get to stand next to that man." And I pointed to The Undertaker. The second I said that, he looked up at me and he looked at me. And again, I was frozen. Then it was my turn to get my autograph signed, which, for those of you that don't know, I had the picture, the 8x10 of him from SummerSlam 1993 with the gray gloves, the tie, the hat, the original getup, which something tells me we haven't seen the last of that. That'll probably be what he wears for his last match. And I told him, just knowing that you know I exist makes me happy. And he started doing what you're doing. He started laughing. I told him, "I think you're the greatest. I don't think anyone could ever come close to you. Past, present, future, no one could ever be you. I think you're the man." I told him that he gave me the best childhood I could ever ask for. And he told me he appreciated the sentiment. He said, "Thank you. I really appreciate that." I handed him the pastel portrait that my sister made for him, because my sister unfortunately couldn't make it. So I handed it to him. He thought I made it. I said, "Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
My sister made this. She makes pastel portraits of many of the wrestlers." I don't think Taker knew what pastel meant. I told him she made this with chalk. And he was like, "Really?" I told him, "Yeah, she makes a lot of portraits with chalk." And he's like, "That's pretty damn cool." Then I handed him the letter that I wrote him. Because obviously I can't tell the man what I truly think of him in 2 seconds. So I wrote him something that will forever remain between he and I. Don't worry, it's nothing stupid. It's basically me just going through from the moment I shook his hand when I was 3 all the way up until now.
I love you.
I actually said, I have no shame in saying I love The Undertaker and the man behind The Undertaker. Because, to me, like I said, I understand Stone Cold Steve Austin's the greatest of all time, but in my heart and in my head, no one could ever top The Undertaker. Larry's getting on my nerves. Ready to kick his...
What's happening?
He's just, he's soaking in that I admitted that Stone Cold's the greatest. But I said it on this show how many times?
But
it just goes to show...
Respect for respect, though.
Absolutely. Respect The Undertaker. You will respect The Undertaker.
He's my second favorite. Remember, when I first started watching, what was the first feud? Austin and Undertaker.
Yeah. But anyways, after I handed him the letter, I showed him the picture that I took of him when I was 3. And I told him, my father took me to the matches at Madison Square Garden, and you came out, and I took this picture of you. And he looked at it. He saw that it was damaged. I said, anyone that's been in my house knows I've had a lot of flood issues. Before we got certain things fixed, which luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had any issues. But we used to keep all our pictures downstairs in the basement, and unfortunately, a lot of pictures got ruined. And I was fortunate enough to save that picture of him. And I told him, I went down there and I made sure I got that picture back. And he looked at that picture for like 30 seconds. And he was like, I'll be. And I told him, I said...
Well, he was looking at the picture, you said?
He looked at the picture that I took of him. Here, I'm actually going to hold it up for the audience to see. This picture right here, I took of The Undertaker.
A little closer.
When I was 3. It's a very, very old picture. It's very old. Matter of fact...
What year was that?
1993.
Oh, okay. So you was probably just trying to, remember where the arena might have been? Or
it was Madison Square Garden. And if you could look, there's my 3-year-old handwriting on the back of the picture.
Oh, let me see that.
Undertaker. The Undertaker.
Wow, you even spelled his name right and everything.
Yeah. Don't ask me how I knew.
I'm shocked there's not one backwards R anywhere in that.
No, this isn't Toy Story. This is real life.
Toy Story is life.
So what happened?
So afterwards, I told him, after I showed him the picture, I told him, like I said, I think you're the greatest. You have no idea what you have meant to my life because you're my hero. And then I pulled up my sleeve and I showed him the tattoo again and I said, this one was for you, brother. He looked at the tattoo and he smiled and he says, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. My fiance was standing right there. And she knew how happy I was. And I shook his hand and I just said, thank you. And he said, no, thank you, dude. I walked away.
They took a picture of him?
No. I took the picture of him before this. The photo op. Yes, the photo op. I'm showing. I showed that picture earlier to the audience. I'll show it again. The photo op and the autograph session were two separate things because there were so many people and there was obviously no way you could do both at the same time because it would have taken too much time. It was worth standing in line for 4 hours. I would do it again to meet him for the amount of money I paid. I have no shame in admitting I would have paid double to meet him.
Did you get a chance to ask him about his thoughts about Sting?
Oh.
My fiance did. I didn't feel it was prop.
What did they say?
I didn't feel it was proper to ask something of him because I feel he's given enough. Even though I want the Sting match more than anything, I put in the letter, that I hope that the one thing that's in store for him in the future, aside from an induction into the Hall of Fame, is a match with Sting. Because let's be honest, as cool as it was to see him beat Lesnar. For those of you that haven't seen SummerSlam, sorry to spoil it for
Spoilers.
you. I think the only opponent that makes any sense remotely for The Undertaker at this point is Sting. The story writes itself. It's easy. And it's a match people would pay to see. And on that alone is a reason to do that match. If people are willing to pay to see that, and I'm not just talking about the network.
Well, I would think if such important things that yourself and others would tell him how much they want to see him wrestle Sting, he would probably try to push for that match.
Well, I could tell you this. When my fiance went up to meet him, she asked him, is your final match in your hometown at WrestleMania? And he looked up at her and he grinned and he said, maybe. Then she said, you're fighting Sting, aren't you? He looked up at her and he grinned. That's all I got. That's all I got.
With the events tonight, if that's going to happen.
You know what? Maybe we should save that for when we talk about Raw tonight.
Yeah.
I think that would be the best time to really get down on that.
All I can tell you is if that match happens, you guys will never hear me come on here and rant ever again. Because I can't ask for more than that. That is the one match that, since I was 7, I wanted to see them fight. To me, there's no other dream match aside from Hogan and Austin that would be as big of an attraction as Taker and Sting. And I've said this ad nauseum on this show many times. If you book it as a double retirement match and you let the fans know, hey, this is the last time you're seeing Sting, it's the last time you're seeing Undertaker, people will pay to see it. Now, that subject is one and done. I met The Undertaker. He was a great guy. I could tell you to anyone that ever has the opportunity to meet him, grab it with both hands. Because it was worth it.
I'll let you know when the training order gets here.
Now we got to talk about SummerSlam.
Yay.
And NXT.
Yay!
We talk about NXT first since it was on Saturday?
Yes, I would definitely call... That's actually a really good question.
Honestly, NXT was such an amazing show. And Larry mentioned earlier in the evening...
Card here, go ahead.
Larry mentioned earlier in the evening the biggest difference between NXT TakeOver in Brooklyn and SummerSlam was when TakeOver was over, you felt like you got what you paid for. You felt like you got what you were wanting to see. Because from the opening match with Tyler Breeze and Jushin Thunder Liger, which I enjoyed, I mean, it's not the first time I've seen Liger wrestle.
I didn't know he was still around.
He's been wrestling 30 years. And the guy...
How old is he, 50 now?
I think he's 50.
Right.
The guy performed amazingly.
I remember him in the old WCW. He used to go up against Mysterio, Chris Jericho for the cruiserweight title.
He used to wrestle. He used to wrestle a lot of guys.
All right, so
it's I have to say I really enjoyed that match.
Right.
Afterwards, we had the debut of Apollo Crews, the former Wuhan Nation.
I'm sorry, should we talk about the pre-show? No, you don't want to mention that?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm not interested.
All right.
Wuhan Nation, also now known as Apollo Crews, wrestled, I want to
Ty Dillinger.
Ty Dillinger, the Perfect 10. Thanks, Larry.
No problem.
It wasn't a typical debut squash match.
Mm-mm.
It was a one-on-one match where the two guys battled back and forth, and in the end, one guy won and one guy lost.
So, yeah, that was the first time I was ever seeing Apollo Crews do his thing, and I think it was a really good exhibition. I mean, for a first match, for a debut match, I mean, obviously it's really going to come down to what he does from here. Can he do anything beyond, like, what he's done? I mean, that's with anybody who debuts. And again, that'll be a big thing when we start talking about Raw, about something else, which we'll get to that. But what I'd like to say about Apollo Crews is he impressed me with what he did in the ring. I want to see more of him, and hopefully he has more to offer. That's really all I can really say about it. And Dillinger was very, very good. I mean, I have not seen, honestly, I've not watched a lot of NXT, but the times I've seen Dillinger, fun, joy to watch.
Ty Dillinger is very, very talented, and he's come a ways. I've seen him from competing in tag matches where the team he was with was getting squashed, to now he's got himself a gimmick,
right?
Which shows that they have a little bit of confidence in him because they're willing to give him mic time, they're willing to give him more television time, and honestly, I like him.
Yeah,
and I really like Apollo Crews. It's not the first time I've seen him perform, but I enjoyed it. Afterwards, I believe we had...
what about Frank? How did he feel?
Frank, what did you think of Apollo Crews?
I didn't watch it. I only watched the ladder match.
All right, so when we get to the ladder match, we'll cue you in.
And speaking of guys who are entertaining to watch, we actually skipped a very important match. The Vaudevillains, Aiden English and Simon Gotch, with Blue Pants in their corner, versus Blake and Murphy with Alexa Bliss for the NXT Tag Team Championships.
And I can tell you something. The Vaudevillains, to me, are brilliant. I mean, I've gotten the argument of they're just a gimmick tag team, they're nothing special, but the fact is they are special because they're very talented at what they do. Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah. I'm going to let Frank say... Frank said he hasn't seen this match, right?
Yeah.
But Frank, have you seen the Vaudevillains perform?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think?
It's a gimmick, you know?
Yeah.
It's different, and it's cute.
Here's what I have to say about the Vaudevillains. There are people who are not wrong when they say this, but they say that kayfabe is dead. They're not wrong. But here's the thing. If there were anybody, aside from The Undertaker, in this day and age, who could say they're keeping the spirit... Oh, and Kevin, and let me just say, Kevin Owens, when he gets cooking, like when he becomes how he was with Kevin Steen, he'll be that too. But, that's beside the point, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The Vaudevillains, they live and breathe this gimmick, down to even their fighting style. This old school strong arm fighting style, which you do not see from anyone, and it baffles me just how good they are at it, considering it was from a time that I don't even think they could possibly have, like, really, you know, unless they, which they probably did, they researched the hell out of this. They just, everything about them, their execution, the way they come out, their entrance, these are men who did their homework, and they breathe this gimmick. And yeah, the gimmick is silly, but that's the point. You make it work.
Just like the New Day.
Absolutely, which we'll also
get into later. Afterwards, we had Samoa Joe going up against Baron Corbin. Now, I've caught a lot of flack because I actually like Baron Corbin,
For me as well.
even though I recognize the guy is green as goose shit.
And boring.
I just like him. But, there's a big but. I friggin' love Samoa Joe.
And he does too have a big butt. And I cannot lie.
Jesus Christ.
And you, brother, can't deny.
Okay. Back to wrestling. Samoa Joe won via the Coquina Clutch, and they're actually calling it the Coquina Clutch. I love that Samoa Joe is actually able to be Samoa Joe in NXT.
Yeah.
How does the crowd react to him?
Oh, the crowd loves Samoa Joe.
He's getting a huge pop?
He got a nice pop. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is it stand out from anybody else?
Would you say that his pop was good, or was it really loud?
Oh, it was definitely good. I'd have to go. Okay, maybe this kind of proves otherwise, but it was definitely a good pop. I just don't remember if it was loud or not, because I was.
Well, then I guess it wasn't.
But no. It could also be that I was kind of lost in the moment myself and not really paying attention. Because here's the thing. When you're, and you know what, it's funny because this actually came up in Raw tonight. My thing is, if you're involved, you're not paying attention to the crowd because at that point you are the crowd. You know what I mean?
That's a good.
It's the only analogy I have. If you watch it again on the network, you can be the judge for yourself. But honestly, I only remember.
You've been to a live audience where the crowd is so loud, like you hear your chest like echo. You know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like I said, that's just my reason of why I can't tell you. That's all. Okay.
What was our next match? Let's see. Possibly the match of the year.
Oh boy.
We're talking real women's wrestling, not that Eva Marie bullshit or the Bella Bones.
Bayley versus Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's Champion.
Frank, if you have not seen this match, I strongly encourage you to go see it.
I always read about these chicks. They always put on good shows.
Well, you got to stop reading about these chicks and actually start watching them wrestle. They're amazing performers, Frank.
There is one thing that is lost in today's wrestling, and it's proper in-ring match psychology. This was the second time that these women made me remember how important that is to wrestling as an art form. The first time was Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks in, when was it? It was earlier this year, but when was it exactly? Was it the day before Mania?
Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I do believe it was before WrestleMania.
I'm not entirely sure if it was, but everyone knows that match now. And here's the thing. I didn't know who Becky Lynch was until I saw that match, and by the end of that match, I prayed to all the wrestling gods that she was going to win. Why? Because she made me believe in her. She made me believe in her, the match, and everything that was going on.
The question
storytelling through wrestling.
The question is, did she make you believe?
No.
No, but I
But the
can't
same thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
can't say enough about Bailey. You know, the girl's been killing it in NXT for years. She finally got a break. Sasha Banks, another woman I cannot say enough about. The woman is an amazing athlete. A lot of people say that this match probably should have closed the show.
It's funny you say that. Here's something that I proposed onto a. I mean, I didn't really propose it, but I was kind of. It was more seconding it, but let me just. I'm sorry, that's the point. I proposed a question on your fan page, on your wrestling fan page, and that question was: has there ever been a pay-per-view in WWE history that they ever closed with a women's title match? To which I believe you told me no, right?
There has not been.
Frank, as somebody who I believe you have a pretty good eye for the business aspect of things, just from at least from a fan standpoint, would I be wrong in saying that the marquee value of that alone would be enough to really put, to quote Shivani, put butts in seats?
Listen, nobody takes away anything from these the women's wrestlers. It's just they just don't have a large enough audience. That's just a sad fact about it. They don't have a large enough audience. You know, they have their fans, but they're never going to close the show with them. I think what was it, last week they didn't close the show with the Bellas and that tag team elimination match on Raw.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a WWE pay-per-view per se.
Oh, you talking about any wrestling pay-per-view?
I'm talking about, no, what I mean is, yeah, WWE mainstream, but what about WWE NXT where the entire fan base knows who these women are? Would you think that they
could... Nobody does. It's just women's wrestling has never been pushed or promoted, you know?
Exactly.
It just doesn't have the audience. I don't think so. It just doesn't have the audience.
I don't think that's right at all. I believe that if you put this as a headliner for an NXT pay-per-view, I think people would come for an NXT pay-per-view.
Maybe in NXT it'll work because it's a small audience.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying.
The hardcore WWE audience that needs another fix, you know?
Yeah, but you know what? That's what I'm saying. Obviously, you know, baby steps. We all got to start somewhere. I strictly meant an NXT pay-per-view because that's where their hardcore fan base is. Everyone who knows NXT knows who Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Bayley, I'm so sorry, Bayley. Bayley and Charlotte Flair are, and they are all fans of these four women, if I may. But, I mean, like, if you close an NXT show with that, I think at least they're worthy of the discussion or the idea.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll happen pretty soon.
Absolutely. The last match...
I think that'll never happen on the main stage.
Oh, no way. We can't even... I don't think we'll ever get that in our lifetime. But, damn it, if I can't nurture the idea. Damn.
Well, now we get to the main event, which was Finn Balor defending his NXT Championship against Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
There are some split reports. Some
Yes.
people enjoyed the match, some people didn't. Me personally, I enjoyed the match.
Mm-hmm.
I did not expect Kevin Owens to go out there and kill himself because he had to go work SummerSlam the next day.
Yeah.
I thought that the match itself was just fucking fun to watch. And honestly, I loved watching the coup de grace off the top of the ladder because that's how I expected the match to end.
Yeah. Now, Frank, you actually saw this one, right?
Yeah, these guys already have proven that they can put on a great match.
Right. My only qualm, and again, this is not any of their fault. It's just a shame. It really is. Just the timing was a shame. Is the people who were disappointed in this match? I understand why. The first time I watched the match, I was a little bewildered. Like I was like, okay, this is a good match, but it's not a great match. And I say to myself, why is that? And when I watched it the second time, I figured it out. I was like, okay, and because I'm an idiot, I completely forgot Owens is on tomorrow on a bigger stage. So I was saying to myself, these guys are wrestling like one of them is injured, but I know none of them are injured. And I went, oh, right. So I felt like, yeah, the main event was kind of neutered a little bit because they were, if you actually watch this, they were wrestling very safe You know, there's an intensity that Kevin Owens and Finn Balor bring to their matches, and it wasn't present here. And the reason is because you had to protect Kevin Owens because he was on tomorrow. But other than that, if that's the only reason as to why this match was not the eye-popping, out of your seat thing that it was, I could overlook that. I can play the understanding fan here. You know what I mean? But if that's the only complaint I have to leverage against that match, then really there's nothing wrong with the match. That, in my opinion.
Neither do I, Frank. What do you have to say about the ladder match between Balor and Owens?
Well, of course we knew that Owens was going to go on to SummerSlam, so in no way did I ever think he was going to win the back NXT title. So maybe in that respect, it might have taken away a little bit from the match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, I really enjoyed NXT. I always managed to enjoy the show.
Right.
And that's basically it for NXT. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with part 2 to discuss SummerSlam and the events that followed. Hang on 1 second.